Mother Bear asked the hunter for help, risking her life to save her cub. Mother Bear and her two cubs seemed to defy the odds when they were faced with a hurdle in the tundra-like Russian climate. As they attempted to swim across a lake, they realized that it was going to be a difficult task. The mother, realizing that it had better swimming skills than her cubs, went into mother mode, The mother, realizing that it had better swimming skills than her cubs, went into mother mode, amazingly defying almost every assumption we've made about motherly instincts. There's no closer bond than a mother and her child. This is true for almost any creature that exists on the earth. However, this story may have you second-guessing this assumption. The story revolves around a mother who seemingly saves herself even though her children are staring in the face of danger. The mother bear and her two cubs faced the deadly scenario of trying to make it across the lake. Unfortunately, although she was optimistic, it might not have been enough in this situation. As the mother bear jumped into the lake with her two cubs, she automatically figured they would be able to keep up with her as she swam. However, as she began to swim, and she herself had made it quite far, it became undeniably clear that her cubs were not able to keep up with her. While many have claimed to have witnessed mother bears sacrifice their own lives to carry their young across dangerous terrain, it seems as though this mom wouldn't be one of them. When she realized her babies couldn't keep up, she did the unthinkable. She simply let them loose and began to swim on their own. However, before you jump to conclusions, it's important to think of the factors that were involved with the mother and her cubs not being able to keep up. It seemed as though the real reason they were separated was due to the incredibly strong current of the lake. It seems as though help came at just the right time, as the cubs were on the brink of death by drowning. A boat seemed to come over the horizon. The boat had spotted the cubs, and it seemed as though they had been trying to swim to the boat. It's strange to think that the cubs had put two and two together, realizing that where there was a boat, there was safety. The people on the boat had been fishermen, and they had been trying to fish until the events folded in front of them. As they got closer to the cubs, they realized how dire the situation was. Not only were they struggling to keep their heads above the water, they were also incredibly exhausted. Although they hadn't planned this situation, they realized they needed to do something to help. The fishermen wanted to help to the best of their ability, but they realized that the mother bear was still incredibly close by. Although she essentially did abandon her cubs, there was no telling what impulse she would act on if they even tried to go near the babies. They decided to wait until the mother bear was a safe distance away before devising a plan. While the fishermen began spitballing ideas, one of them realized that he should film the entire thing. As the bear swam closer to the boat, he quickly ran to get his smartphone to film the entire situation. Soon after, one of the cubs got close enough to the boat that he was trying to lift himself onto the side. As the bear tried to grab onto the side, he realized it was too high for him. He was also still incredibly weak from attempting to keep his head above water for so long. One of the fishermen was quick on his feet and ran to get all the fishing gear he could so that maybe he could help the bear. Interestingly enough, the bear cubs had their own ideas in mind how to save their skin. The cubs decided to use their incredibly sharp teeth to grab onto the side of the boat. He realized that grabbing onto the boat with his teeth would allow him some stability, and it would allow him traction to getting onto the boat. Although the cub had grabbed onto the boat with his incredibly sharp teeth, they were still too far away. They needed assistance from the fishermen, but the fishermen realized how much danger they were in at this very moment. They were too far from the bears to grab a hold of him, but even if they did get closer to the bears, they could slip and become a meal or freeze to death. At one point during the film, the cub tears its head towards one of the fishermen and makes direct eye contact. It's almost as though you can see him pleading for help. It was decided the fishermen would do everything in their power to help save these cubs. They decided to use their fish net to push the cubs into the boat. The fisherman's net seemed like a good idea, but there were some flaws to this seemingly good plan. The net was, of course, designed for fish, and so it couldn't possibly support the weight of a full-grown bear, let alone two. However, they decided to give it a shot anyways, and they began to reel the cub in. As they tried to hoist the cub onto the boat, they struggled with its weight. As helpless as the bears were in this scenario, one needed to remember they're still one of the most dangerous animals on the planet. The fishermen spoke to the bears in calming, hushed voices, hoping to calm them down as they were being hoisted onto the boat. Hopefully, the bears would see them as poachers. Hopefully, the bears wouldn't see them as poachers or as a threat, and would see them as nice men only looking to help. When it seemed like they were never going to get the cub on board, they realized they were actually making some progress. The bear got closer and closer to the boat's platform. They felt incredibly excited and nervous about what was going to happen next. When they successfully got the cub onto the boat, they were overjoyed. Even though there was still another cub in the water, now they had realized that it was indeed possible. They were confident they could do it again. Although the other cub was a bit further, they knew they had limited time since he had been even more tired from trying to stay afloat all this time. Unfortunately, it looked like the second cub situation wasn't looking too good. But the fishermen prevailed and were confident they could save him too. They made their way closer to him and cast out the net to get a grip of him. This time the process went by a lot quicker since they already knew what to expect. The fishermen were heartbroken looking at the poor cubs. They were incredibly scared for them, understanding how they probably felt in this moment. All they wanted to do at this point was to help them return to their natural way of life. Since they figured that their mother wasn't that far away, they would try to reunite them. The fishermen perused the land, trying to look for a good spot to drop the cubs off. They were looking in particular for the island that the mother had found. They were looking in particular for the island that the mother bear had found. Although it seemed like she had abandoned them, they were sure